This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
Adoption, finding forever homes. That's straight ahead on this edition of inStudio. At their best, families are all about commitment, compassion, and love. But some children and parents haven't found each other yet, and that's where adoption comes in. Well, rather than me trying to tell you how important this topic is, let's take a look at a portion of a video recently produced featuring some of the children waiting for forever families. They will share their hopes and dreams.
I dream of having a family.
A family that's active and has pets. A family that can help me succeed in my life.
I dream of having a family.
That I could have an older sister that does makeup and stuff. All we would have for breakfast is cupcakes.
It would be nice to have somebody to come home to.
I dream of having a family
that can guide me to whatever I need help with.
Well, you can change a child's life and your own by considering adoption. The need is great all over the world and here at home. In our area, Families First Network of Lakeview Center is the trusted partner for adoptions. And in this show, we'll be talking about all of the services and support offered to our children and families. We'll start with our expert panel ready to get right to it. And later in the broadcast, we will be meeting a family waiting to adopt, as well as see more of that video showcasing children who are waiting for the love of a family. Joining us, Shawn Salamida, the president of Families First Network of Lakeview, who is also vice president of Lakeview Center and an adoptive parent himself. Shawn is responsible for overseeing the community-based care agency charged with managing child welfare services for the Florida Panhandle. Shawn has worked in the field of children's services for more than 24 years. Dr. Elizabeth Wynter, she's the director of the Selfless Love Foundation, which is a Florida-based nonprofit. Dr. Wynter has worked on behalf of abused, abandoned, and neglected children, providing leadership at the local, state, and national levels to improve the child welfare system. She serves as vice chair for the Florida Coalition for Children and is an adjunct professor at Nova Southeastern University College of Psychology. And Lindsey B, executive director serving our area of the Children's Home Society of Florida. Lindsey brings more than a decade of experience in counseling and family services to Children's Home Society of Florida. She is renowned for her focus on ensuring families receive the highest quality of immediate care. She works closely with Pensacola's top child advocates to develop and implement new programs and to identify grants and other funding sources. So I want to say welcome to all of you and thank you for being here with us. And let's start out by talking a little bit more about your individual backgrounds, how great the need is that we have for adoptions to take place in our area. And I'll start with Lindsey. Lindsey, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been working in the world of child welfare for 18 years. Started out as a child abuse investigator, actually going into homes where abuse reports have been called in and trying to work with those families to keep them together. And from that, I've grown into working in foster care, counseling in a variety of different areas throughout the state. And I've settled back here in the Panhandle where I originally am from. So.
Wow, with all that tough work and you're still smiling.
I am. I love it. I do love what I do. It's truly a calling.
Yeah, I'm sure it must be. Dr. Wynter, you don't live in Pensacola, but you're part of a Florida-based nonprofit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I've been involved in the child welfare system for a very long time, over 20 years, and I think there is probably not a role in the child welfare system I have not played. I have been very fortunate in my career to come in as a therapist, become a clinical director, be involved in fundraising and grant writing and media relations and legislative affairs, and run a provider agency, and through all of that, just have an incredible opportunity to get to know and work with incredible leaders across the state. And my really belief in what we're doing with the Selfless Love Foundation is really that collaborative work. We can change a system, but we can't do it alone.
got to work together.
Yep.
And Shawn, thank you for being with us. Tell us how you got involved and your role here.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. We all
Absolutely.
appreciate this opportunity. I started out in children's mental health, actually. I was working with little children with emotional issues, so really only saw the child welfare system from a distance. But in 2001, the state moved to a community-based model for child welfare. This is the only state in the country that's done this. Most states, the public sector, state government runs the child welfare system, but in Florida, in all the different geographic areas of Florida, there are local, private, nonprofit organizations that serve as lead agencies, oversee the whole system of care. I loved that idea, loved that model, so I jumped into the child welfare arena at that time. So I've been doing this about 17 years, and here in Circuit 1, which is the 4 counties of the Panhandle, I've been here 4 years, and this has been my favorite stop so far.
Yeah.
Working with Lakeview Center, Baptist Healthcare, and our wonderful community partners. There's a lot of need in our local community, and so again, that's why we appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about it today.
Well, it's such an important topic, and there's so many children. I read a statistic like, what, 800 in Florida, or what are some of the statistics now? Do we know?
Well, I can speak to locally. We have, as of today, we have over 1,330 children in the foster care system. If that sounds like a lot of kids, that's because it is.
Oh my gosh.
So again, there's tremendous need. Now, about half of those kids are actually placed with relatives. That's a good thing. They can stay with family if they can't be with their birth family at this point in time. A lot of those kids are in foster homes, but a lot of those kids won't be going home to their birth family. The court has decided they can't safely return, so now we need to find a new family. That's part of our job. So on any given day, we have anywhere from 75 to 100 children in need of an adoptive family with no identified family for them. So those are the children, and the number changes every day as kids get adopted and new kids have the need. Any given day, we have 75 to 100 children just in our community that are in need of a forever family. Statewide, I think that numbers are right around 1,000, 1,500, fluctuates in there. There are kids with adoptive families, but our focus today, I think, is on those kids where we really need to find a match.
Yeah, and that's where you're coming in at this point right now.
Yes, absolutely. You know, in Florida, in many areas, a good number, as Shawn said, get adopted by relatives, and a number of them get adopted by their foster parents, right? So that child becomes available for adoption, and that familiarity is the best, right? And so that's the best outcome, is first that they could get reunified with their families, if not, perhaps that they could be adopted by their relatives or a foster parent. But then you have this group of kids that really need people from the community to step forward and choose to adopt a child. And so what we've had in place, and you know, I look at the history of adoption matching and how we've done that in this country, and we've always sort of struggled, right? We used to adopt kids based on their religion, and then based on their race, right? And so we keep refining that process to make it better and better. And really, you know, it's sometimes we have the resources. It's just how do we make that connection? How do we help families in not only in the Pensacola area but across the state find available children that are waiting for them? And right now our current system is based on waiting. So we often have children waiting in foster care, and we have families waiting to be matched with these children. And so we really thought that using technology, we're very fortunate to have, and we'll talk more about this, I know, but very fortunate to have a partner called Adoption Share who sort of came up with this light bulb idea of that we can use technology to help make those connections.
I can't wait to hear more about that. Your thoughts on the need for adoptions in Florida?
Oh, I would just mirror Shawn's sentiments about what this looks like, as well as Elizabeth. Children's Home Society is a statewide organization, and we work in similar areas throughout the state as well with adoption. And there's always a need and a growing need, especially with a lot of the social issues that families are facing today, that become complicating factors to those children being able to safely return home. So we, as providers and service providers in all of our communities, need to be ready for the challenge of helping these kids to find forever homes and helping them to stay there.
Do we have some pretty good success with that in this area?
I think we do. We this year we're on pace to hit about 300 finalized adoptions. That's about 10% of the total for the state. So the good news is that we are getting kids to forever families. The not so good news is that there are that many children in need of it in the first place. So I think we can always, as a community, look at what can we be doing in our community to prevent abuse and neglect from occurring, to support families so that kids can stay with their birth families and not enter foster care. But we definitely work very hard. If kids can't safely be at home and we don't have a relative, we work really hard at getting those kids onto an adoptive family. So 300 adoptions this year, and our projections for next year are even greater than that.
Well, that is big. You're saying 10% are coming from 4 counties, and we have 67
counties, I think, statewide. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's a pretty big percentage.
Yep.
So how, you were mentioning earlier that Florida is the only state that has a community-based. How do you see that as an improvement or as something good for our area? Do you see other states wanting to do the same thing?
Yeah, I can definitely attest. Other states are looking at Florida as the model. You know, we have our challenges in Florida, but I think our successes are unquestionable in the 17 years that we've had this model in place. The benefit is communities can embrace and care for these children. You know, under this model, they're not the state's problem. They're the community's priority. So as time goes on, we build more and more partnerships. More and more groups and organizations step forward to be part of the solution. You know, Children's Home Society is a great example. Selfless Love Foundation is a great example. So there's almost been a proliferation of people and organizations stepping forward to create this community-based model. Our outcomes are better, our effectiveness is better. We have work to do, but it's unquestionably been a good model and a good model for our 4-county area.
I love what he's saying.
Yeah, and I'll share too, you know, we adopted last year, Florida is very good in adoptions. We adopted close to 3,700 kids across the state. And before community-based care, that adoption number was around 1,500. And so that's definitely an area since we moved into community-based care that has increased. The other thing that's so exciting in community-based care is the ability to be flexible and to take on innovative approaches and to try new things. And I think that is really why Florida is outstanding in the work we're doing around child welfare. Doesn't mean that we still can't get better, but we're moving from good to great, right? So that's the difference.
I like hearing that.
Yep.
Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the great things, Elizabeth. Thank you for bringing that up about being able to be innovative and look at different approaches. I think that child welfare in the past has been very prescribed, and we're people, you know, so things change. Your community changes daily. The statewide focus changes daily. The issues that our children and families face change daily. So we have to be, as providers, ready to step up to the challenge to provide new solutions. And CHS is fully committed to that statewide with all of our partners.
Wow, it sounds like just saying changes every day. You have to be really on top of it. So you've got a great group working on that, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said, we have work to do. There are challenges. There's a lot of times there's issues with communication and coordination because there's a lot of people involved in trying to do what's best for these children. But I think our system has come a long, long way. I've just seen it in the 4 years that I've been here. A lot of collaboration, a lot of partnerships, all with the focus and the goal of each individual child getting them to a safe, forever home in a timely fashion.
And we will talk more about that. Okay. When we come back, we'll learn more about innovative new ways to match prospective parents and children waiting for their forever homes. You're watching inStudio on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast.
WSRE is seeking volunteers for a week-long reading of the names from May 20th through 27th at the Wall South in Veterans Memorial Park of Pensacola. Sign up online at wsre.org/names.
Welcome back. This is In Studio on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast. We'd like to thank our panelists, Shawn Salamida with Lakeview Center, Dr. Elizabeth Wynter with the Selfless Love Foundation, and Lindsey Cannon from the Children's Home Society of Florida. They are all here to talk about adoption and finding forever homes for area children in need of a family. So we're going to turn our attention to adoption matching services for children in foster care, but I want to talk a little bit more about, we've got individual children that are here, and some people don't know the difference between foster care and adoption. Could you touch on that, please?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, the need for foster homes comes in when children can't be with their birth parents because it's not safe or not stable, and we can't find a relative. We need licensed foster homes that will care for the child, parent the child as we're working toward reunification. Now, if reunification is not possible and the parental rights are terminated, then we move to looking for an adoptive family. So the real difference there is with an adoptive family, you're the family forever. With our foster families, which we're in tremendous need of foster homes right now, of all kinds, we're working toward reunification. If reunification doesn't occur, you're caring for that child until we find an adoptive family. So you're right. It's really about these individual children, matching them with the best foster homes we can find. If they can't be reunified, finding the best forever family for them. And that's where that recruiting and matching process comes in.
And matching is getting exciting. There's a new model in town. Tell us about that.
Yes. So a nonprofit tech company out of Georgia called Adoption Share, who they began really in the private infant adoption space and trying to figure out how to improve the process, reduce the amount of time that the waiting happens, right? One of the watershed moments actually for Thea Ramirez, who is the founder of Adoption Share, was a young man called Davion Only, who was out of the St. Pete area. And he was 15 years old and had really grown up in foster care. And he got in front of his church and he begged to be adopted. Aww. He said, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, young or old, I just want a family. And from that, 10,000 people, it got national attention, and 10,000 people came forward. And so we realized that for her, it was a watershed moment to say, we don't have a resource problem, we have a connection problem, right? So there's people out there that will help us. First of all, they need to know how to help us, and I'm sure Shawn will share a little bit about how to get engaged in that. And so she really said, there's technology, right? There's eHarmony. There's ways that people can be connected, and we can look at those deeper level relational things, and that's really the important part is. To her credit, she then decided to Google stalk the lead researcher from eHarmony, because she said, well, they can fix this. They know how to connect people. Good relationships are similar, right, to parents and kids. And so she called this man every week for a year. And he never answered the phone. And then eventually the assistant said, yeah, you're that woman. She said, well, he moved to Netflix, right? So now he's the lead data scientist for Netflix doing those matching algorithms. And so she eventually got him on the phone. So Dr. Jean Gonzaga and his wife, Heather Satrakian, he says, it's so funny that you're calling me today. He goes, last night my wife and I were talking about, it's such a shame that everything that we've learned through doing all of the studies we did at eHarmony and the algorithms that we use to create relationships, that we can't use that to help kids in foster care. It's one of those moments where, all the stars align. And so about the same, so she's starting to develop this. About a similar time, I'm working with an incredible person who created the Selfless Love Foundation, Ashley Brown. So Ashley and Ed Brown started a foundation. Ashley happens to be a product of adoption. and her husband is the CEO of Patron Liquors. So very generous donors, and we had done a project together around kids aging out of the foster care system, and she came to me and she said, I really want our next project to be adoption. We want to do something to improve that process, to help families along, to help these kids get connected. She has this huge heart and is so passionate and such a hard worker. And so I did my research and I started really looking around of what was out there. And there's a lot of wonderful tech companies, right, and tech products. But when I found Family Match, when I found Thea, I found someone that had a heart for this. She's a social worker by trade, and she wasn't just about selling a product. She was really about how do we change the system? How do we use technology to improve the process, but then how do we really move the system forward? How do we transform the system? And that was her dream. And so we're so excited to be a strategic partner now with them. And so the Selfless Love Foundation, through their generosity, decided to launch the state of Florida and pay for it all.
Wow.
So there is no cost to any of the agencies or any of the families to utilize this system. And so that's very generous, and it really sort of solves the problem. So a lot of times as nonprofits, we just simply do not have the dollars to invest in things that we know are going to make our lives more efficient. And so really the goal of Family Match is how do we build better quality matches by identifying them through, again, not necessarily just a picture of a child or a bio of a child, but really looking at some of the deeper stuff within us and the families. How do we reduce the time to adoption placement? How can we improve that process? And how do we make it more efficient for caseworkers, right? We know that their heart is in a great place, but sometimes it's just not easy. It's really hard. You have so much data. We collect so much data on children and families, but it's not in a usable format that is going to help you make decisions.
So you're bringing it down to that usable format.
Yep.
And you're traveling the state, meeting with
We
different...
we're on the Selfless Love Family Match tour right now. We don't do anything small, and I don't do anything slow. So unfortunately, I've decided that we can train the entire state in 6 weeks. And so Pensacola and the Families First Network have just been such incredible cheerleaders for this. They raised their hand and said, we want to be first. And I said, we're there.
Right. Well,
So we're just really excited to be working with them.
are you excited about this?
I am very excited. We at Children's Home Society and Families First Network work in partnership after the adoption is complete, and we come in and support the family. And so sometimes those are really great situations, and then sometimes it becomes very challenging. And so and things come up through the developmental stages that children experience and families are not expecting, and so the support element is really important. But if we know there's a deeper connection there and more qualities that are alike, it's going to make the likelihood of that child's experience and that family's experience even better.
It's almost one of those things that you think, why didn't somebody think of this sooner?
Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this community-based model I referred to earlier. I mean, what better example than the wife of the CEO of Patron Liquor and a researcher or developer from Netflix coming together to create something to make the process better for matching for kids that need adoption. I mean, that's why we leapt at the opportunity, because we just love that innovation. So, can I talk about the way this works?
Please.
Okay, so the first step, if you're interested in becoming an adoptive family for one of these children, the first step is to contact us at Families First Network. You can go to our website, familiesfirstnetwork.org. You can call us. We have recruiters that will talk to you and kind of just explain the process to you. And then we'll go through a process of what's called a home study, just getting a little bit about your background, talking to you about what this will entail. Once you have an approved home study, then we'll hand you off to Family Match. You'll go in and complete a questionnaire so that basically we can get to know a little bit more about you. Our caseworkers will be on the other side, and they're doing this now, and that's the training that's occurring this week, is going in and filling out questionnaires based on our children needing adoptive families. And so the system will kind of, based on loads of research and literature reviews, kind of find compatibility levels between the potential families, the prospective families, and the children in need, and that'll help inform us of where we might be able to find some good homes. So we're really excited about it. It's so much further advanced than what we've been doing in the past. and we think it'll be good for our children ultimately.
And I would think you would want to also say to people, I'm just guessing, that just because they call and look into this situation doesn't mean that's something they have to do, but would you encourage people that have even the slightest inkling of interest to contact you?
Definitely, most definitely. Go to our website. You can, there's lots of questions that people ask that we've got the answers to. If you're still interested, give us a call. Follow us on Facebook for a while. We put a lot of emphasis on our social media. If you follow Families First Network on Facebook, you'll see some stories and some stats. You can kind of get familiar, maybe hear from some other parents there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Some people, they're ready now. And for a lot of people, there's just a period
just kind of looking. Yeah. And Elizabeth, you were talking about some success stories already.
So what's really exciting is, so the model is a predictive analytic model. So and so for us, we want to see those matches. But the first step really is to get the families onboarded, and it's a voluntary process. So we're looking for families that are ready to take children today. So they've been home studied, they're trained, and we verified with the agency that they're ready to go. And so there's two parts of it that are exciting. One is, it's a statewide repository, right? And so oftentimes we are looking at families in our area and looking at children in our area. This gives you the opportunity to look at families across the entire state. And so while you may not have a match, and as Shawn said, things are constantly changing. The families that are available, the kids that are available. And so that gives you a broader perspective for matching. So the first thing that was very exciting is we opened family registration so families could go on themselves and register. And we opened that February 15th. And by now we have almost 300 families online, which is just incredible. And so now we're onboarding the kids. Well, what's so interesting is not only have the families been incredibly excited about this opportunity, and Family Match really flips the script. And so typically the way we do matching is we have families looking at kids' pictures on websites, right? So we have families looking for kids. The difference on this is you won't see kids' pictures, you see families' pictures. And so now you have case managers looking at families, and families are a solution, right? And so you're not having a family calling and saying, I saw this child on this website and find out that child's already been adopted or is not a good fit. You literally have case managers calling families when they have a child that they know is going to be a good fit for your family, which is a very different way to do adoptions and much more efficient way to do adoptions. But what was so exciting, I got a call this morning from one of Shawn's staff members who let me know that a case manager entered a child into the system who has been in the system for a while, has had a lot of difficulties in placement, and she entered this child and up popped 3 families that are compatible, and she literally was in tears because she had lost hope that this child had the ability to be adopted.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, can't wait to talk more about it. All right, well, when we come back, we'll have more discussion on adoption, finding forever homes. This is In Studio on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast.
Unlock your newest member benefit. Over 1,000 episodes of your favorite PBS shows. American Masters, Antiques Roadshow, Nature, Nova, Masterpiece. Watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere. Become a member, sign in, and start streaming today.
The WSRE Public Square Speaker Series presents Harper Lee in Her Own Words, a reader's theater presentation by Dr. Wayne Flint and Nancy Anderson. Flint is the author of Mockingbird Songs, My Friendship with Harper Lee, which reveals the To Kill a Mockingbird author through a collection of letters between friends. Don't miss this local launch event for The Great American Read at 7 p.m. Thursday, May 24th. Admission is free, book signing to follow.
You are watching In Studio on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast. Our topic, adoption. Finding Forever Homes. And right now we turn our attention to support services for families who have adopted or are considering adoption. Help does not end the moment children and families are matched. With that in mind, the Children's Home Society of Florida is a fantastic resource. And so we've got the resource to talk about that right now. You guys just help so much. I'm sure some people might even shy away from adoption a little bit, thinking, oh my goodness, I get this child, and what if things aren't rosy, or what if they have issues, or what if I mean, talk about that.
Sure, and I think that is such an important point that we really want folks to know. And so we are there the day of finalization at the courthouse with these families. We're meeting with them and shaking their hand and saying, hi, I know you're having a fantastic day, and I want you to know there may be a time where you're not, and we're the people you need to call. So we're there with them. We let them know and give them information on how to contact us, first and foremost, for any sort of needs that they have. And so we provide support services in a variety of ways. We can do that with just simple phone calling for community resources, or maybe they're having trouble with the child's insurance, or maybe they need some legal paperwork and they need to know what systems to call, because it is a very complicated web that we have in our child welfare system, and navigating that is not always easy. So to have someone that's your advocate to help you navigate that and get the information or the paperwork or the resources that you need is vitally important for families, because ultimately that provides stability for that family and that child, which is what we want to do ongoingly. And we can do that until that child's 18th birthday, and then usually beyond, because if we've been working with them for that long, they just become family for us too. So they're always coming back and letting us know where they are and what they've accomplished, which is amazing tribute to the staff that have been working with them and in those homes.
That must be why you stay and continue to do this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think that that's really an important part of taking care of our community as well, is really providing that ongoing support for families at the times that they need it. And they may not always need it. There may be things that are happening in their family around developmental ages. You know, we go through ages and stages throughout our lives, and our children have experienced trauma. And so although they might have been fine as a toddler, and to 6, 7, even 8 years of age, they start to hit another developmental milestone, and some of that trauma and things that happen to them come back. And we don't always know how that's going to come out, and the families don't always know that. And so being able to not only put case management in to help them find resources, or just to provide a support. Sometimes it's just somebody on the other end of the line listening and saying you're not alone. And then sometimes families need a little bit more support about how to work with that particular trauma that's happened. So we can go in and provide therapeutic services to that family and help them work together to find solutions.
Sounds like they can take care of everything. How important is this to the mix?
Well, it's real critical. You know, another reason it's a great time in child welfare to adopt is because there's abundant research about the effects of childhood trauma later in life, and some of the strategies to parent children who've been through that trauma so that they heal. Clearly, if you adopt a child out of foster care, they've been through some trauma in their life, and that's going to manifest itself in different ways at different developmental stages. But there's abundant resources available to help families through that. So Children's Home Society is a tremendous partner in that regard. We have foster and adoptive parent associations throughout our community where you can get plugged in with other foster and adoptive parents that are trying to kind of work through some of those same issues. But the beautiful thing, and I can speak from experience, is that children are resilient, and when they have stability and love and the right parenting approach, they can heal from the things that they've been through and just thrive.
All children have developmental things and phases, and so just to know, though, that, like you said, somebody's on the other end of the line. It's
Exactly.
just, it's life, right? And love can heal a lot of that, I would imagine, and I would imagine that there would be a lot of gratitude from a lot of these children as well. And with your system, you're going to be able to maybe take away some of the potential
and I think
stress.
that, you know, what would families need to know, or folks that are out there need to know, is that the majority of the children that we have available for adoption are age 8 and over, right? And so many of them came into foster care at an older age. We know the longer they stay in foster care, the more difficult it becomes for them to develop relationships and to attach. And even they miss some of those social, emotional milestones, right? Because you aren't in a safe, secure environment, a stable environment, sometimes you haven't reached those developmental stages that other folks would. And so sometimes we get confused, and that's why post-adoption services is so important to understand, you know, is this an issue from their trauma? Is this a typical 16-year-old issue? Or is this because they're emotionally behind? And so that's an issue as well. The other thing I wanted to share is, you know, many of our kids, and we talked about over the age, but also siblings, right? And so we have sibling groups, and so people should consider that. Keeping siblings together actually improves the success of a placement, right? Because they have that bond. And we also have kids that have physical and emotional needs. And so making sure that you have the support services to attach and bond as a family, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. As Shawn said, there's hope there. And the biggest healers, and I think what's so beautiful about adoption is a family. I mean, simply having a family, what that does for a child, we watch them grow and blossom and develop and improve educationally, and that family will be an advocate for that child and make sure they get what they need. And I think that's really important. We are in Family Match really looking at some of that deeper level stuff, understanding, you know, what's the family's marital quality, what's their history of trauma and attachment, and then also understanding what the needs of the child are so that you match a child with a family that has the capacity to care for that child at the level that they need it. And that's really important.
And, you know, we could do an entire show on deep level psychological things. I know you've got quite a background in that, as you all do. And so, but just the knowledge that there are experts in this area should be very appealing to our viewers and potential families, I would think.
Yeah, there's community services that are available to Beyond Children's Home Society. They'll help get your family plugged into those services post-adoption. But for example, Lakeview Center is also the largest behavioral health provider in this area. And so children that are adopted from the foster care system have Medicaid until they turn 18. And so those services are covered under Medicaid. So a lot of our post-adoptive families are also going to Lakeview for that kind of, you know, therapeutic support. And they've got the training and the expertise to understand what's called adoption competent counseling. We've increased our number of adoption competent therapists in this community, so I just think we're getting better and better at supporting these families.
I love that term, better and better, and it really, really sounds like that's happening.
Absolutely, and I think as more adoptions are occurring, we're really looking system-wide at what we need to be doing to not only increase our capacity of support for our families, but also look at evidence-based type of work that we can do with our families. What type of therapies work best in this type of situation where we have a child that's come into a new family, and how do we help them learn to be a family and learn to cope and work through some of those things at different times in their lives. A lot of our children, like Elizabeth mentioned, are 8 and over, so there's a lot of teen adoptions that happen, and we know that teenagers can be challenging without trauma. So to be able to really look at a family and say, this is completely normal, and this might be something that is coming up from their past, and this is how we need to work together, and what resources we might need going forward. So it's really pulling all of those things together and wrapping ourselves around the family. You know, when prior to adoption, there's a lot of folks that do that in the child welfare system, obviously with Families First Network, and there's a whole lot of resources. And so some of the families can feel when they've gone to the post-adoption side, well, all those people are gone, and all of these really important connections that I had that led this family to be together are gone. But they're not. They're really not. We're just working to connect together with a new system in the community.
What about people that might be interested in getting a hold of you? You mentioned there were a number
Absolutely.
of resources. Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of it is just picking up the phone and saying, I'm having a little bit of difficulty. It doesn't mean that you're a bad adoptive parent or that you're not having a good experience. It just means that you might need someone to talk to that can help resource you. So they can call us anytime at 850-266-2700 or get in touch with us through our website, which is www.chsfl.org.
chsfl.org.
Yes.
Yeah, and
you can always Google Children's Home Society of Florida. It'll take you right to it.
Well, and I imagine Lakeview would get you there as well, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's really, we use the term no wrong door, so we all should, if a family reaches out for help, if they call FFN, because that's where they had their adoption done, once we know it's a post-adoption case, we'll refer them over to Lindsey's team and work together to meet whatever the needs are.
So, and I'm going to go back to Elizabeth. You're just again traveling the state, and are you seeing excitement from each of the different communities that you go to about your new system?
Everyone has been so welcoming. Again, we were going to start off as a small pilot and do 4 or 5 areas, and we ended up doing 17 out of 20 circuits in the state. So everyone really understands and believes in it, and that's really important. And everyone's looking for another tool, right? A tool in their toolbox. At the end of the day, it's still the case manager who makes that final decision, which child goes with which family. But anything you can add to help you make that decision, I think, is great. If you are a family who is approved, has a approved home study, you can register on Family Match. You just go to selflesslovefoundation.org, hashtag, not hashtag, I'm sorry, backslash, thank you. I'm using the wrong terminology. Let me say that again, selflesslovefoundation.org, /family-match. Okay. And I'll take you right there.
All right, and I'm sure
or you just Google Selfless Love Foundation. Make it easy.
that might be the way to do it. But we do have a graphic for that too. So if you might want to get your pencils out and jot that down at another time. Best thing about adoption that you guys think? Let's start with you, Lindsey.
Well, it's the end result. When we see this child move on into adulthood and create their own families, whether that's through adoption or organically. And they come back and share those stories. We just had one yesterday that brought us a big box of Jay's pastries and said, I was adopted and you supported my family and I just wanted to say thank you. Even though I wasn't the one there, it was amazing to hear that.
That's great. Well, Dr. Wynter, thanks for staying in town and visiting with us and the great work you're doing, and thank you for the work that you're doing as well. And Shawn's going to stay on with us, and we're going to have some fun in the next segment. When we come back, we'll be joined by a prospective adoptive family. This is In Studio on WSRE TV, PBS for the Gulf Coast. Stay right here.
WSRE Public Television and the Escambia Elementary Principals Association congratulate these Shining Star Award recipients. These students were selected upon the basis of good citizenship and adherence to the core values adopted by the Escambia County School System: equality, responsibility, integrity, respect, honesty, and patriotism. Congratulations to all of these outstanding students. You are watching viewer-supported WSRE TV, a service of Pensacola State College.
Welcome back to In Studio on WSRE. Our topic, adoption. Finding Forever Homes. Remaining with us for our final segment, Shawn Salamida, who's the president of Families First Network of Lakeview Center, and himself an adoptive parent. Also joining us now, Chad and Michelle Picou. Chad and Michelle are a family seeking to adopt here in Northwest Florida. Chad and Michelle have been together for 18 years and have 2 grown daughters. They have a passion for serving their local community, and they believe that all children deserve a forever family. They are looking for children of a certain age to adopt. Welcome, Chad and Michelle. Want to tell us, I didn't want to give it away, but tell us specifically the type or age of the child that you're interested in adopting.
Our hearts belong to the teenagers.
Yeah.
We know that they're phasing out of the system, and normally children will go back to the homes and the lifestyles that they were taken from, that were not good for them to stay in. So we think it's important to have some extra love to provide for those children, to give them some help and some guidance on how to be an outstanding citizen of our community.
What a lovely thing to share the knowledge that you have had from your life and growing, and give that to a teenager. Chad, talk about that.
Yeah, like you mentioned, we've got 2 grown kids now, and yeah, this started back probably 8-10 years ago. Our church had a adoption day and had pictures of kids all down the hall, and we, walking down the hall that day, stopped at a 16-year-old girl. And we thought, you could see the crowds around the younger children, and we just thought, man, these kids are not going to have anything. They're going to come out of this, and they're going to have to figure out the world on their own. So when we decided to come into this, that's where we gravitated to, and are really looking forward to that opportunity.
Wow. So you've been together 18 years. That started 18 years ago, but then you had 2 biological children, correct?
Right.
Yes, and they're fully grown out of the house, or kind of,
Well,
they're never completely out of the house. Yeah.
Our baby still lives at home.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's great to have them, and to know that they have that root family to be with until they're ready to shoot out. And even when they shoot out, they're always around, and that's the wonderful thing about families, right?
They're excited. They're looking forward to it. Very, very much so.
Yeah. So you've started the process.
We have. We went through earlier this year, was looking at a particular girl, and we did not get matched. So to hear the family match coming through and kind of being on the ground floor of that and seeing the advantages to that, we're extremely excited. When we were looking a few months ago, trying to find another child to adopt, it was really kind of a strange sensation of going out on a website and shopping for a kid and not really knowing, are we going to, is there going to be a compatibility issue, anything like that. So a tool like that can help at least narrow it down to, hey, we think this is going to be a good match, and to speed the process along a little bit, because it is a little slow. We're really excited about that.
I think that's wonderful. Well, Shawn, you're an adoptive parent, and so you, I imagine, are a wonderful resource, and you can tell the Picous about how it's been for you, and you didn't have a special matching service like that.
Right. Well, first of all, it's beautiful to hear that story. And it just goes to show how you may have an idea and it takes time for it to come to full fruition. So I'm so glad that you guys are here with us today. Yeah, we have a similar story. Well, I have 7 adopted siblings, 10 siblings total. So I thought this was just what everybody did. I grew up this way.
Oh, wow.
So when my kids, my wife and I, when our kids were in their teens, we had 4, we said if we were ever going to adopt, this would be the perfect time to do it. Similar thing, caught sight of some children that had no other option, and that's what I learned in seeing my siblings grow up into wonderful adults, is that I think about what would life have been like for them if they didn't have my parents step forward and give them a future. So we wanted that, and we've had our children now. Our finalization was 6 years ago, so they're 11 and 16 now. Wonderful, wonderful kids. It's challenging. I mean, we talked about in the earlier segment, there's definitely some days that you have your challenges, but again, there are resources out there, and there's a lot more information out there about ways to support children through some of those struggles that they might go through, and that's part of the process. And I want folks to know is, I talked about the home study earlier and kind of learning about you, but we also provide training and kind of give you a little bit of a window into what you might be dealing with down the road. But it's a beautiful thing. I always say it's the most challenging thing you ever do, but it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do, because you're not just talking about a child or youth to 18. You're talking about the entire lifetime of an individual, and it's a real blessing. And I just have great pride and appreciation for folks like the Picous who are stepping forward to do it, start that process.
We all appreciate you as well, because talk about a term, selfless love and forever homes, and just really what you just said. Yeah. We were talking just a little bit earlier. When I've thought of adoption, I've thought, maybe at some point, and maybe I'll have $25,000, and maybe because that's what you hear. Mm-hmm. You hear people are, looking to adopt, and it costs a lot of money. What's your experience been there?
We are blessed to have a family that we know that adopted, and within hours of talking to her, because she's very passionate about adoption, we thought it was going to be a lot too. When she said that there was no cost to us to adopt through foster care, it was just shocking.
Wow.
And as much as I've shared with other people the same thing, they didn't realize it either. So we're very blessed, and hopefully that we'll be able to adopt more than just one.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, maybe some siblings or something. And so talk about that. There's no cost to adopt a child in foster care?
Yeah, that's, sometimes we fail to communicate that. There's no cost to adopting a child from the foster care system. There is, I mentioned earlier, Medicaid coverage for medical, dental, and therapeutic services until they're 18. Children adopted out of the foster care system go to state college or university in Florida for free.
Wow.
No cost. There's also a monthly stipend. It's called an adoption subsidy, mm-hmm. that helps with some of the costs that you might incur, and that is until the child is 18. Mm-hmm. So not only is there no cost, but you get a little bit of financial support, you get the coverage, and on the end of it, there's college mm-hmm. tuition is covered. So I think the state does a pretty nice job of making this an easier path financially for the families that choose to adopt.
Well, we were just saying too, therapy services, if there were to be some trauma in the child's past, mm-hmm.
Private
costs for that are pretty high.
Right.
And that's available as well.
Right.
Everything. So
Yep.
You find the people with the good hearts that are looking for all the right reasons,
mm-hmm.
and now you've got all these resources to match
mm-hmm.
them up,
mm-hmm.
and then on top of that, the state helps make it all happen
Right.
for you. So I can't see any downside to this, really.
Right.
Talk about some of your favorite, we've just got a couple of minutes left, some
mm-hmm.
of your favorite stories of adoption. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, just with my own children, it's just a continuous blessing and adventure. Seeing them, one thing we've seen with our kids is that they were 5 and 9 when we adopted them, and we've seen musical talent that we didn't know was there. One afternoon, I was just sitting in my living room, and I heard this electronic keyboard we got for them, just to have something to do that didn't involve a screen, mm-hmm. And this beautiful music being played. And so I went to see who it was. It was our the younger of the two. I think he was probably 8 years old at the time, playing beautiful music
Wow.
that he learned from the keyboard. So we've just found, like I said, I use the word thrive. When you get through some of those, emotional and traumatic challenges, you just see the kids thrive. So the reward is definitely there.
And you're excited about the rewards and to be able to pay it back, yes?
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
And do you have any thoughts of the kind of child or the things that you'll do together, or just be part of the family?
That's the biggest thing, is just to be part of the family. We try to make plans, but we kind of take life one day at a time and see what the child is that we get matched with, what kind of interests they have, and to kind of foster those along, and like you said, encourage them to grow in areas they're interested, and to show them that they're loved. To think that a child is about to come out of the system and about to have to face the scary world without anybody to rely upon, without a family to support them and encourage them, it's just a hard thing to think of. So,
well, you're doing something about it, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you and everything Lakeview Center's doing, and we appreciate you. All the best to you, and we're looking forward to more success stories there down the road.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you to our guests on this special broadcast, Shawn Salamida, Dr. Elizabeth Wynter, Lindsey B. and Michelle and Chad Picou. This has been an enlightening and informative discussion, and we hope that you have been inspired. If you or someone you know is interested in learning more about adoption, please call area code 850-453-7777 or visit FamiliesFirstNetwork.org. They can give you more information and link you also to the Heart Gallery, a site featuring children who are awaiting adoption, or hook you up with that smart match that's going on. And on that note, here again to tell you in their own words a recently produced video of children awaiting their forever homes.
I dream that my family listens to pop and country music.
I dream of having a family
that loves me and have fun with me.
Friendly, happy to see me, loving, caring.
I dream of having a mom that will help me with my homework. I dream about having brothers and sisters. I dream of getting adopted, such as my sister, Aaliyah.
I dream of going to Japan.
I dream of being a doctor.
A photographer.
being able to do things, go places, see people.
I dream to be an architectural engineer and go to Notre Dame. I dream of having a dog named Sparkles.
I dream of having a normal life.
I dream of having a family.
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 Dream of having a family.
I dream of having a family.
I dream of having a family.
I dream of having a family.
And that's what this show has been all about. Remember, you can help make a child's fondest dream come true and enrich your own life in the process. I'm told there has never been a better time to adopt. You've been watching inStudio. I'm Sherri Hemminghaus Weeks. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you next time.